doing? All right, what is good, fam? What is good? I was trying to figure out how in the world to do this. All right, hopefully y'all can hear me. Hopefully y'all can hear me. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. All right, so welcome. We're going to be talking about cosmic earth codes today. So I already had a live scheduled, but couldn't figure out how to link this meeting with that. If you know how I like to roll, I like to use slides, especially for the trainees. They're all amazing teachers that are in the current KYTT 500 that is now officially Yoga Alliance. Um, Hopefully y'all are able to see me. I don't know what is all playing right now on here, but whatever. I'm gonna switch the screen because I don't know what exactly is being broadcasted. Oh, yeah, I use Canva for this. So, but yeah, so we are officially, um, what do you call it? RYS Yoga Alliance 500 hour. That process was so grueling. And I'm super proud of myself. I'm super proud of the cohort who has put a lot of trust in me. They have shown up and they have really just like shown like such dedication, which I think is like so good. Like it's just, I couldn't ask for anything better. So I'm super proud of them. But if you're ever thinking about having one-on-one mentorship within Kundalini Yoga, I mean, we go through pretty much all aspects that you can imagine of tantric science. We delve into the roots, we delve into so much stuff. This is one of the core modules within the training. So, you know, I think what sets soul codes apart is the ability to actually go into earth wisdom and tapping into the grid and being able to like heal the grid by healing yourself and just like if you have key codes within you, being able to actually connect into the nodes of the earth, which we're going to get into, and channel that energy into the body and the mind and heal yourself and the earth. Just what a time. What a time. I've done like so many lessons on Kali Yuga, the cycles of time, the spiral of time. Um, and yeah, there's just so much we're going to get into with this that I really wanted to make it available to you all because of the energetic shifts that are happening. Um, so let's delve in. I had a lot of crown loads with this one, so sit back, enjoy. I don't know how to get it off this. I don't know. Hopefully y'all can see it. Like I don't know how to get it off of this Canva shot. Okay. So I'm sorry that you have to view it within Canva. Canva is blah, but it does the job. So the way I depicted this was like a wheel, where it's superimposed on it. The ley lines are superimposed on more of a flat plane. The yogi, and I get into this in this presentation, the yogis describe them as discs, these realms that we're in. Like, there is no planet Earth. That's something that has come to me in moving to this land and this sea and being just like on the Gulf shores, is like the access to the downloads to see from another dimension, literally another dimension. One of the things that came to me is that our realm is actually called Atlantis. Atlantis is an actual realm, and that within this realm, there are 9 realms that each have 33 dimensions. Um, this is not something that came to me directly from, well, I would say it is from source, but uh, I listened to a teacher by the name of Isis Wisdom. That's her actual name. And she channeled that there's not actually ice walls. Like, I always like viewed the firmament to have ice walls, that they're actually monatomic glass with like a barrier that has cracks and portals, and that's where these beings are entering, and why we're seeing UFOs and all this. And that's like really what SpaceX is just like blasting through that monatomic glass. There are videos like on Instagram and TikTok, social media, that show this glass falling from the sky where it's like cracked. So neither here nor there. We'll get into that, but the Atlanteans were the original timekeepers. You feel me? Like, basically they studied water, and from that study of water, they understood the cycles of time. So we're going to start at the brass tacks. Like, what is a ley line? What is a ley line? What is a vortex? What is Earth's energy grid? Ley lines are straight tracks of energy that form a global grid, and they connect sacred sites in geometric patterns. So there's intersections, and these have very high energy nodes. Now, when I say intersections, this could literally be 2 ley lines that intersect, but it doesn't have to. I mean, there's high energy nodes like Stonehenge and Machu Picchu, but an intersection could literally be a road that has vortex energy. It could be a city. Since we are in the realm of Atlantis, essentially like what cities are, because like think of Atlanta on the 33rd parallel. Atlanta on the 33rd parallel, its mascot, or like whatever's on its like city flag, is a phoenix. And it's on the 33rd parallel, just like Phoenix, Arizona. So there's all these synchronicities that occur when you really start to like take more of a view from the crown. But in order to understand what all of these crown loads actually are, we've got to start from the ground. We've got to start from the root, which is why I started with ley lines. They're called many different things across many different cultures, but the nodes are essentially cities. Atlanta is a central node point of the realm of Atlantis. And so it's like, that's why it's called that. So ley lines in general, they're seen as Earth's veins, and they carry life force instead of blood, obviously. Like, they carry Earth energy. And the energy of the Earth as of now is measured by the Schumann resonance, which is more of like its heartbeat, its frequency, the frequency of the Earth. The names across the different cultures for ley lines are like spirit paths, corpse roads, dragon lines, song lines, dreaming tracks. They're called many different things. I'm gonna tell you right now, the mounds, our ancestors are petrified. giants, Nephilim. Um, the mountains, there's a mountain. Hang on, let me read what that was. I actually just took notes about this. There's a mountain in Arkansas, I want to say that it was, where you can straight up find like amethyst crystals. I gotta get the name of it for y'all. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But oh, the Ouachita Mountains, those in Arkansas, those are made of crystal. And the crystal quartz sand that we all know is here, Siesta Key, like Anna Maria, like all the places that you see me photograph on my gram are remnants of Atlantis. I mean, the lost crystals of Atlantis, and there's some trail from the Appalachians. I mean, that makes sense, but there's so much more to it. The crystals in the earth are the from directly from the womb of the earth. And so, yeah, they're directly here. They're directly from the womb of the earth. And they transmit more information than anything I'm going to give in this. But so if you can pick your own crystals and you're by mountains, that is such a gift. But ancient temples, it's those are marked stone monuments of where these energy centers are. And they're believed to be paths for spirits, fae, subtle beings. They're attracted to that energy. That's what they see. They're not really seeing our fences and buildings and roads and concrete. They're seeing this realm that I'm describing to you right now. One thing I did see was that, you know, the um, Tampa Bay has, I think it's like the university now, but it was called the Tampa Bay Hotel. And it's in the middle of the city. And it has stainless steel minarets out of nowhere, like this Moorish architecture looking building. And I actually went to go explore it because I'm like, I really need to see this. I need to see what we're fucking with here, what all was going down here. And there are some art installations in the front of it, very curious art installations. I have this all documented too. Um, and those art installations had sticks that said Tempa, saying that Tempa meant lightning, lots of lightning. So the lightning capital of the world. So it's almost like they're leaving a clue at this building of lightning. They've got these energy harvesting towers that have stainless steel, sort of like domes with a point that has a minaret at the top. So, and this is right at the foot of the Hillsborough River. So there's water energy, there is intersection energy, vortex energy, right at the mouth of Tampa Bay. And there is the lightning capital of the world. So there's just like a lot going on there, a lot going on in that area. And it's marked like with that art installation with this random building that looks like Moorish architecture. Those types of things are how you know. City of Detroit, totally. But like, here's the thing is that all of these places, people, I think I said this before on a previous presentation. I can't remember where I was. Oh, I was like I think it was Christmas or something with my family. Somebody had given a joke gift that was basically like roasting. It was like Yelp reviews of all of the national parks in America and basically roasting America, saying that it was like trash land, it was super boring, like rating it 2.5 stars. And it's like, and it was supposed to be a joke, but as a grid, as a grid worker, as a light worker, as somebody who like loves the earth so much. I mean, I still drive a car, so I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm like some tree hugging hippie. I drive a car, I use electricity, but I love nature. I love earth. I love putting my bare feet on the earth. Anybody who knows me knows that I am all about that earth life. I enjoy being here and enjoy the beauty here and really like have reverence even for, the concrete jungle like Detroit. And so for anyone to like make fun of the beauty that's here in America it's really hard for me to take in because there was so much blood shed just to have this land. But when you take it from like a crown load type of view, it's sort of like sometimes this death and destruction ushers in something new. Sometimes that's a different version of reality in a different dimension. And so it really makes me question both time and space, and that none of that is a straight line, and that it is all a spiral. And so when we're really looking at concepts like this, it's a lot more than just like, oh, there's spirits and fae and subtle energy. What is underneath our cities? What was this land before? Who was on this land before we are told that somebody discovered it? Who was here first? Who was here? Who are the aboriginals of this land? Um, and yeah, so for that stream of consciousness, I just want to say that every city is like a portal. When I travel over the bridge, so I live South Shore, Tampa Bay, travel over the bridge to St. Pete, shout out to St. Pete. Um, it is like entering a whole other dimension there. Shaped like the pineal gland, allegedly the sunniest place in America. And it feels like another dimension for sure. So that's the thing, is that our cities and states and roads and all of these fake borders and labels that we're creating as humans, I shouldn't call them fake because they're just as real as what I'm talking about, but all of these like labels that we put on things are just that. And what I'm offering in this discussion is just another way of looking at, or maybe opening another possibility of what reality could be. I'm not even asking you to adopt this as the gospel truth, because hell, I don't actually really know. I don't know. Like I can't prove, well, I do know. I should say I do know, but I can't prove evidence-based any of this shit. I can prove the monuments that were left and the physical architecture, where they're at, their measurements, how they correspond with other sacred sites on the planet Earth, how they correspond with the stars in the sky and the cosmos. So when we're looking at things, sometimes we can get real stuck in just that, get real fixed, that that's the one way, that's the only way, and it's hammered into us from the time that we're born. But as you start to undo layers of mind control and that indoctrination, and you're just looking underneath the layers and just exploring, you don't have to let go of any belief structure that you don't want to let go of. But I will say that in changing your core belief structure, it's going to change the way that this reality appears to you. And when that happens, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about and be like, okay, she was on point with that. That makes sense now. And these things that are underneath the current start to come up and they start to make sense because we're in a huge shift. The earth is in a huge shift. We are a part of this, of Tiamat. We are children of Tiamat, the original primordial mother. And we're going to feel the shift just as much, which is what's happening, which is why I feel like compelled maybe to not only put this in the KYTT 500, but to actually make it available for people who are curious about these type of things and would be interested in expanding the way that they look at life and the way that they look at the earth. Okay, so what are vortexes? What is actually a vortex? A vortex is a powerful swirling field near a ley line intersection. And the energy is so strong that it can twist tree trunks. So anywhere that you see twisted tree trunks, and I've seen these in Sedona, Arizona. I've seen these in Mexico. I've seen these in California, Monterey Bay specifically. I've seen them in Washington, Des Moines, Iowa. There's a forest in Michigan that was like my favorite one to go to. And right when you walk into like the mouth of like going down these trails, there's a twisted tree on the left-hand side. And I always thought, I'm like, there's something here. Like I could always feel energy at that particular forest. There's so many different like spots in Michigan. Michigan is very protected. Remember that like the roots of the tree, I don't know if you can see that. My camera's not showing it, but my little journal has like a tree etched into it with roots. The roots of the tree, even when they're uprooted, like how I've seen here after a hurricane, they go deep and they carry memory. So not only are mountains, the mounds, the shores, the shoreline, the trees carry memory. They're also very protective of the land. They create like an auric shield. So Michigan has it's just like a very protected land. Florida's a little bit different, definitely a little bit different, and obviously very, very, very different. And the weather here is a little bit different, obviously, but like it doesn't have the same level of sturdiness. Michigan's got the glaciers, it's got the frozen energy, it's got the rich minerals. It's a portal. There's like 5 or 6 portals that I could think of off the top of my head there, growing up there. I mean, Detroit is definitely like its own dimension. And I'm not even just saying that just to say it. It is true. There's like literally a huge portal in the middle of Hart Plaza, which is like at the center of downtown Detroit. And I had a yoga studio there actually at one point. And it's a portal. So, and there's also a mound like 20 miles, well, it's not even 20 miles, I would say like probably 10 to 15 miles south of that portal. And there's also a star fort there in Wayne. It's called Fort Wayne, but it's in Wayne, Michigan. And anyway, I could digress forever about star forts and things of that nature, but vortexes are swirling fields of energy. You can see it with the twisting tree trunks, and you can really amplify whatever you have within you, and you can also send that energy into the grid from the vortex. It's kind of like, you know, um, what's a good analogy? It's like a whirlpool where if you're gonna like drop like a penny in the whirlpool, it's gonna swirl and get to the bottom a lot faster. Same thing with our energy. I don't know if that was the best analogy ever, but when we put energy into a vortex, it's like it takes that energy and it amplifies it. Um, I stayed in a pyramid. It was like these are pyramids that they actually built as like an Airbnb type hotel type thing. I think it's like a resort. It wasn't an Airbnb, it was a resort. And it was in Fort Myers, Florida. It's called Pyramids of Florida. And I had stayed there. And basically, what I felt was this swirling, my energy was so amplified in this pyramid. And I was just going through so much at that time that it healed me. It was like so healing to just like feel, allow it to flow. The reason we stayed in that particular pyramid was because there was a natural geothermal spring that you could like immerse your body in the whole time. And it was like this healing resort. But it wasn't like super bougie or anything. It was super down to earth. like perfect for what I needed at that time in life. And I'm so thankful that I found that. Shout out to Pyramids of Florida and Fort Myers. But basically, like the vortexes are a natural, sacred, geometric energy field that is on Earth, typically on a node, typically at an intersection of a ley line. So, how does this affect you? Living and working on a ley line, which I live directly on a ley line that crosses through Tampa, like this one that you see on this right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you see a line that goes directly through Tampa. I live right on that line. So it can amplify harmony or it can cause a lot of conflict within you. And that's what I find about Florida is like all of the hurricanes, you're either staying put and you're like, people here are built different, like they're not going anywhere, they're gonna hunker down and they're surviving it. Even if your stuff goes down, they're still there. Um, so, like you either stay put or you're ejected out. That's what I find about the strength of those hurricanes. I've survived like four of them now. And I know people who are like born and raised here who think nothing of these, but they are definitely a phenomenon and they're definitely being manipulated. And um, they have a powerful energy as it is, even without the manipulation of it. The energy of a hurricane is so vastly cleansing and destructive and unique that it will level out the land. It will clean it out. So just like surviving that, feeling right after a hurricane and going to an actual mound was like so powerful because first of all, there's no sound. Like all the birds are gone. The birds just know. They like feel that barometric pressure. They feel the electromagnetic ley lines of the earth and they're like, I'm going to Michigan. And that's what I did too, but we came back like right after. Well, actually there was a second hurricane that had hit within like 2 weeks. So we were still here for that. Was on this mound site right after, and it just felt like all the trees were turned and it just felt clean. It was silent, different, and clean. Um, so, when you're in these, they can bring visions, they can bring peace, they can bring spiritual awakening, and paranormal. People will classify it as like paranormal activity. So there's a couple ways that you can align with Earth's energies to really ground this down. If this is not like hitting, that's okay. There are so like nature is so important. Putting your bare feet on a ley line will balance out not only your energy, but the energy of the grid. Just like I said, you have key codes in you that you don't even need anything. The sun gives you that amplification and everything that you might need. Grounding meditations at grid crossings, ley line pilgrimages as prayer walks, Earth Star chakra shit. And I'm not even trying to be like that hippie, but group resonance rituals with a mantra, actually using your voice and speaking it into the land is powerful. There's one where I do Om Namo Guru Dev Namo on the beach and fish will come up out of the water. It's wild. Like once you have reverence for what is, it will bend to your reality. It will make itself available to you. So I think like the forcing and like, being like, how come I'm not seeing orb beings or UFOs? If you allow that to release and just become present, focus on generating your auric field to be as pure as possible and to feel it all, these things will make themselves available to you. So another thing I want to talk about is like, okay, so this slide is talking about healing and working with the grid. Healing the grid heals yourself simultaneously. I talk about certain type of crystals here. You can leave crystals here and there. You can walk and dance on those vortexes. when you go and get crystals directly from the earth, like if you're at Siesta Key and there's crystal sand, or you actually find crystals in the mountains, that's directly from Earth's womb, like I said, and it replenishes your auric field. It's super powerful. Um, that crystal chooses you, and these are living vibrational sentient beings that transmit energy. So, they have the DNA of the earth. When we're working with these types of crystals, they become tools for us to be able to clear energy. So I know that I am a grid worker. I love the land. I love the Michigan forest. It's just a little too cold up there for my genetic code. But I was born and raised there, and I still have an affinity for it. And all of those codes are still within me. Then I acquired even more codes by being here because of all of the different elements, and it having just such like almost like a tropical vortex environment. So you could have that too, even if you're in BFE, literally middle of nowhere, and you're like looking around going, there can't be a vortex here. There more than likely is. There more than likely is. So this is how you can locate them. First of all, any of the major cities, all of those are vortexes. Second of all, using dowsing rods, pendulums, or intuition. If you are in the country and you're like, well, there's nothing around here, like we don't have any major cities, likely there is something underground in that land. So you can use online maps like Vortex Hunters, Leylines.net, vortexmaps.com. The best one is the Geomancy, and I'll link it below. Basically, Google Earth, you can like overlay lines onto road sites and like really see. I know there's one right in my town, right through town here, literally like a mile away from, I'd say 2 miles away from me, because I'm 5 miles from the bay, Tampa Bay, but like there's a road. It's like an artery that goes directly from the bay. It's like a boat launch road, and it cuts right through the town that I live in. And like they've recently seen sinkholes there. And Florida is like big for sinkholes. Like you could literally just like fall into the earth, because when you cut it in half, it's like Swiss cheese, where there's a lot of caves, there's a lot of underground tunnels, there's a lot of aquifers, aqueducts, rooms full of caves that you could fit gigantic ships in. There's deep underground military bases, particularly by Miami. That Miami is a vortex of a different level, because of the Bermuda Triangle. So it's like the point of the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is a portal. And if you imagine a Merkaba, a 3D superposition of the Star of David, the Bermuda Triangle directly corresponds to the coordinates of the Dead Sea on the other side. Think of it as Atlantis is the realm, but think of that as Atlantis, and think of this Dead Sea as by the Philippines, Taiwan, and China, Japan, as Lemuria. And they directly correspond. And I think, this is what I think, that it is a pyramid, just like Merkaba has the point. And it's right, the Bermuda Triangle is right at that tip of the point, and it's a vortex. So when they say that like planes disappear or like ships disappear, they're actually like traveling to another dimension that is in a different timeline dimension. So just know that there's like many different dimensions, many different realms, many different infinite multiverse timelines. And so when we're taking in all of this information from all of these different places, which I get into later on in this, just know that that is coming from another timeline possibility, and that information is being pulled from that timeline. And even though it might differ from what you know to be the truth from another piece of information, they're both this and that are true. And that concept is really dolphin energy. And the dolphins, the whales, um, and those type of creatures are the ones who can transfer through different dimensions. So, for example, in Egyptian mythology, well, many different mythologies, but let's take Egyptian because there's a word for it called Atun. It is the primordial waters that are above the firmament. So that's kind of getting into an arena that I'm not like an expert at. I'm still experimenting with those concepts because it does shake the way that I see things so much. I'm open to it. It's just I haven't processed it fully to be able to like communicate it to you in the most articulate manner that I know intrinsically I can. I just need a few more days for that one. But these are some of Earth's major chakras. And remember that they change. They change based upon the energy of the Earth and the nodes of the Earth and the levels of consciousness that people are at one with the Earth, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. But they change with the levels of consciousness in the area that folks are in. So the root is Mount Shasta. The sacral is Lake Titicaca or Machu Picchu, Peru. The solar plexus is Uluru in Australia, which is where my people are originally, the Austronesians originate from that area. And I have 98% Austronesian blood. So there is a piece of this that does go into, my culture specifically, but it's for the reason to articulate how to describe time. Okay, so then there is also the heart, which is Glastonbury, where Stonehenge is in the UK. The UK is essentially the portal that is the divot in between the Merkaba pyramids, if that makes sense. So like you have one that points up, you have one that points to the side. That line that the UK has is like in the middle of those two pyramids. And then also Hawaii is considered the heart chakra of the earth, of this plane. Um, the throat is the Giza pyramids and Sinai, Egypt. And the third eye is currently Glastonbury, but it moves to Brazil. It can move to Brazil. And then the crown is Mount Kailash, which is Tibet. And there's so much I can get into about Mount Kailash and the pure raw diamonds that are found in that cave where the yogis sat and lived off prana and goji berries. There were diamonds, literal, like probably millions worth of diamonds in that cave. And what do you know? Our yogic sages that gave us the sacred practice of yoga, documented all of it, gave us the diamond of yoga. So I think it's not only physical, it's also energetic, metaphysical, symbolic. So I just wanted to articulate other like famous vortex sites in case you might be there, in case you feel that energy and or want to really be in a strong energetic center. These are probably some of the more like famous ones. So you have Sedona, Arizona. I've been on all these vortexes, Cathedral Rock, Bell Rock, Boynton Canyon, all of those are so powerful. There was one, I think it was the Boynton vortex where it balanced masculine energy and feminine energy. And then the Bell Rock one, I got physically ill. I was walking up to the chapel. There's like a Catholic chapel, and that's what happens to a lot of these sites, is that the colonizers or they really like built their churches over these sites. So you see crosses on almost all of these sites, but there's like this huge cathedral and there's like a big cross. I think it's Catholic. And I got really, really sick, like all of a sudden just super dizzy and nauseous. And um I think it was because like my system was not able to process the energy at that time. I just like hadn't gone through an upgrade. It's like when your phone, needs a software upgrade. I didn't quite have that yet. 2017 is when that happened. And so I became really sick there. I feel like now though, I'd be seeing all of the beings there. So I consider myself a grid worker. I don't consider like the gatekeepers is not necessarily like we're keeping something from you, but it's anchoring in an interdimensional portal, meaning like you are all traversing the same dimensions together, working in a team, and you're anchoring in the crown loads from those dimensions. I hope that makes sense. But basically, like, a grid worker is someone who works very solitary, which is myself. I love to give like my knowledge too, because I feel like when I hoard it, it like physically makes me ill as well. But I am on a service path to essentially like give the earth good energy and to raise the vibration on earth um in the most idyllic way possible. I would say to unconditional love, which is that's like really hard to even say because everything has conditions because we're human. So when we talk about time, space, and consciousness, I really should change this slide. Maybe I'll do that right now. Continuity camera notification. Hang on one second. I just want to make sure that all my technical stuff is good. I don't know why it's saying that, y'all. Okay, so this should really say Chronos being linear matrix time, very Saturnian, um, in nature, the keeper of time. And then there's Kairos or Kai, which is divine time, the rhythm and the spiral, the natural divinity of what is. So when we're working with ley lines and vortexes and we're harmonizing with them, it's very difficult to just deal with space and not deal with time. Time and space have a marriage. Kronos and Rhea were married. So I like to think of that as like time and area, literally space. So what happens with that is that gosh, how do I word this? We have a history of the earth being quarantined. So this places limits on how we see things. So these were put in place by like reptilians, greys, other beings that experiment with humans. This is one big genetic experiment, one huge genetic experiment. And basically, when this quarantine occurred, this is when the fake time artificial matrix came into play. And it's based on GMT, which is Greenwich time. There's a lot of occult undertones with that name, and also a global time control system. So you have rhythms of nature versus the rhythm of the empire, and you have chrono. Now, you can spell it Kronos as well, but chrono, sovereignty, is this idea of moving toward kairos, reclaiming natural time, being aligned with divine timing, and really trusting in that. The artificial time matrix established England of course, England's really a extremely important vortex to study, but that's another presentation for another day. When you're looking at time, GMT was the colonial construct that was used. And it was established in 1884 as a 0 point imposed by British, dominance. So there was some function to it. And I'll get to this, but because I'm not against time. I've actually, in my later years, have learned how to change my relationship to time. And rather than it being something that's like oppressive and a colonial construct, I really see it as a tool to help make things happen and manifest in the way that I want it to in divine timing. But its function from a practical point of view is standardized navigation, trade, military coordinates, the law, legal system uses this. And so what it did was it effectively erased local time and it replaced it with this single empire-centric clock. And so the undertone of that is there was now this control of time, of labor, of market, of movement, of goods. So, I think that it's all run. Time is necessary for the control structure to work, to keep going. So in the artificial time matrix, basically, there's solar rhythm. GMT is not all bad just because it's a colonial construct. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know how else to say that. The artificial construct of having that standardized GMT was still in rhythm with nature. So it was anchored to the sun, where like from the point of perspective of Greenwich. And so it was swayed by Earth's wobble, swayed by Earth's tides. It carried, the breath of day and night. And it was really looking at it like seasonally. It's kind of like sidereal versus tropical astrology, where, tropical astrology tends to look more at the season, whereas sidereal, if I understand correctly, is looking at the physical placement of the star and going by that. Same concept with GMT and UTC. So we switched over to UTC in, I believe, 1972, but basically it made it more of a machine time. So when you're like, and I learned this in jury duty, is that everything like on our phone, like when you make a call, when you go on Facebook, especially everything on Facebook, is tracked on UTC. So if you're in the Eastern time zone, I believe you're UTC -5. UTC -5. So on your phone, you can actually track UTC. I'm pretty sure I do. Let me see. All this time stuff just gives me kind of a headache, honestly. I'm not really a time gal. Yeah, so UTC 7 p.m. So, okay, we're -4 because it's 3:22 Eastern time. This is 7:22 UTC. So I'm UTC -4. If you are in California, you're going to be UTC -7 or 6. UTC -6. So you can figure out whatever that bullshit. But basically, we went from more of a cosmic view, even with GMT, more of a cosmic view of time to more of a mechanical view of time, where now we might live by more of this pulse that is based upon the machines, based upon the internet, based upon business day. Whereas our body is going to be lunar and seasonal and circadian. The yogis make reference to this a lot. Um, so basically, I think that Greenwich holds symbolic undertones, hints at sorcery, more of an occult time control matrix, and in a more esoteric lens, it casted the spell of time. So binding the world to its clock as opposed to just letting things be, letting them play out, because it's an order versus the primordial Tiamat of chaos. Raw primordial feminine energy can't really be tamed. Can't really be tamed. It is chaos. And so masculine energy gives it this order and gives it this structure. And that's really how I view Father Time. In the Hindu context, or like yogic context of the deities, the different deities depict many different expressions of energy, whether it's feminine or masculine. But when it comes to time, I would say Brahma is the god of space. And I would say Vishnu is the preserver. Vishnu is a half fish and known as the preserver. Well, what is Vishnu preserving? Vishnu's preserving Maya, his wife, which is the illusion. So Vishnu being the father of time and also being half fish and half man, and also preserving the illusion. So essentially, all of us are entrained in this sort of like consciousness of artificial rhythms according to business, the end of business days, weekends, when that's not really how you have to live. We can live according to natural time, which is synonymous with solar, lunar, sidereal, circadian, seasonal, agricultural. Empire time, which is mechanical hours, the factory bells, train schedules, financial markets. And its impact is this alienation from the cosmic cycle, which can disconnect us from the body, from the land, and the spirit. So, really, what I'm looking to do with this is just point this out and be able to open up the connection to nature's time, which is a spiral, which is a twist. So, I kind of talk about doing moon calendars, fasting or feasting with the solstices. We're going to come up on. I still follow, I've made astrology my own. So it really kind of going down the rabbit hole of sidereal, going down the rabbit hole of Western tropical. I don't want to really be told anything. I appreciate those who came before me, who have taught me the beauty of astrology and all of the resources that I have access to study it. But I'm making it my own construct where I realize that my identity is not fixed to being a Libra, but I know that deep in my soul, I'm very Libran. And I have a Virgo stellium in tropical, but to be a Virgo as my sun sign, as my solar dominant sign, that's very interesting. And I'm not closed off to it, but I take all of it as data points. In essence, we're really looking to restore coherence between our inner cycle and the cosmos. That's all that information should really do for us. Anything that confuses us more than it provides clarity, ain't it? That's just like the world according to Leia. That's the law of Leia. So, and that took me many years to be able to get to that. But choose time not as a measurement, but rather an initiation or living in rhythm with creation. Okay, so UTC, spiritual practice, use UTC for trains, for satellites, and GMT for soul and ceremony. Or just the deeper wisdom, which is knowing that true time is layered and it's not singular, and that the empire's clock is only one strand of this entire weave. So I have time as a spiral here because in my culture, there's this joke that like, oh, you're on Filipino time, meaning like the party started at 6, but everybody pulls up maybe at 10, maybe. And so that's just like an ongoing joke just in general with our culture. But one thing when digging a little bit deeper underneath that is that we actually have words. Now, these dialects are not the ones that my mom is Ilocano, but time is expressed as like the turning or the revolving. And other words mean like the returning as opposed to a linear time structure of just time, father time. It's really described as the understanding of it and the connotation is a movement that spirals rather than marches forward. So pre-colonial Filipinos didn't treat time as hours or minutes, but definitely treated them as cycles and seasons and signs in nature. So there's concepts of like taon, which is a gathering of events, or buwan, which is the lunar phases, panaon, which is like the season, the weather, the timing. All of these reflect a spiral or a fluid sense of time that's really rooted in um, the earth. It's really rooted in the region. So each region kind of carries its own markers. There's no uniform measurement amongst like the Filipinos. So when the colonialism arrived, it disrupted that rhythm and the Gregorian calendar and the clocks and the Catholic rituals and indigenous calendars and agricultural rites just kind of faded away. And Filipino time, which was once meant to be more of a social timing, it basically under like a colonial influence became caricatured as us always being late. But it's really actually just being in touch with a different type of time. So this shift really reveals a deeper truth, which is that time isn't just counting days. It has cultural power. It shapes ritual, its rhythms of labor, its religious life, and its identity. And the Philippines transition from nature-based to a Western mechanical time just shows how just the idea of time can colonize your mind. So we're going to decolonize it here. I want to zoom in on this, y'all. I want to zoom in on it. Take a look at this. If you can see it on your screen, zoom in. I can actually also link this graphic as well. But what I loved about this was that when I was like contemplating about this, where do I begin with this? Basically, when we're taking information, for example, like I follow these creators who call themselves Andromedians. They call themselves Lyrans, and they start, like Bashar, like channeling this information from this ET, other extraterrestrial higher level of consciousness. They drop some truth, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, totally. Like I see life totally differently, right? Then I listen to another thing and it's channeling from a different ET, but also presenting something that feels truthful and it feels aligned. And one thing I learned from viewing this graphic was that, like, if you look at, let's take on here, um, Andromeda on the spiral, keep that coordinate on the spiral, and then go a little bit further, and then you'll see Arcturus. I actually have heard from both Andromedians and Arcturians. What if who's the more truthful one? What if they're both the truth? What we're seeing here is different timelines, and we're pulling truth and possibility from different timelines all at the same time now. At the crumbling of the Kali Yuga in this particular larger cycle of time around all of this. So, like within this spiral, there's many spirals. And so, as we're viewing all of this different information and the coordinates are overlapping, we are at the precipice of being able to get all of the different crown loads from the different points along different possibilities of the multiverse timelines. So I hope that made sense. But that's what I gleaned from looking at this graphic. So this graphic is powerful because it depicts time as a spiral. And it kind of shows you all of the different, like if you really zoom in here, you can see like the different, like there's the Neanderthals, sapiens, um, like just different types of hominids that existed. Whew, so then we have plasma. So I just want to pause here. And I think I'm going to continue the plasma in a different video because there's just so much information and I have a lot of incoming calls coming in right now and I need to tend to them. So I'm gonna hop back on in a couple hours and we're gonna pick it back up at plasma. Okay. I love y'all. Please comment, please share the video if something spoke to you in the video. Shout out to Maureen and Brian who came from to my class in St. Pete to the Kundalini class and said that they found me here. I really appreciate that. You never know who you're speaking to. This is for my KYTT 500 RYS. There's links in the description. Please share the video. I really appreciate all of you. I will talk to you all very, very soon. Okay. Namaste, Satnam Yogis. I don't know how to end the video.